right. Thank you, Tina. Thank you to the fabulous Creative Morning team for having me. How's the sound? Can you guys hear me? All right. A shout out to all the Creative Mornings international chapters around the world that make this community so very special. I love the fact that this is happening everywhere. I think sometimes we don't acknowledge that, but the fact that this is happening everywhere and thinking about the same concept and idea, I think is quite special. All right, good morning. How's everyone doing? All right, show of hands. How many of you have made a major move at least once in your life? And think of the idea of a move as something broader than just physical, because I think by the end of this thing, you'll understand what I mean. Well, so have I. This is me nomading at the age of 8 in the mountains north of Tehran, and here's the truth as I have lived it. We're all strangers in this world. That sense of otherness, restless, out of place, not enough, that's not a weakness, that's a superpower. Why does that matter? The world we know is collapsing, politically, culturally, technologically, and I believe that collapse will turn us all into nomads if we're not already. I sense this because I've been forced to be a nomad more than once. I want to share fragments of my journey because they hold values and clues about what it means to be a creative in this moment for all of us. So Ruth Bahar asks, in a nomadic world, do we still need a home? I love her, and I love her answer. Home is a set of memories that can't be confined to any map. That lands for me because it captures what I understood as a kid and what took me a lifetime to rediscover. Home isn't where you live. Home is what you carry. It moves with you. Like joy, it survives uphill and upheaval. That's me and my mom on the Caspian coast. I was ready to go. My mom had other ideas. Story of my life. I was nearly 6 years old when the Iranian Revolution started. 1 year, I'm in a secular, cosmopolitan Iran. The next, it's social and economic upheaval. Euphoria turned into zealotry, peace to war, public executions, my mother forced into a hijab, daily bombing raids, ration lines, a life on the edge, instability, fear, censorship, on and on. And yet somehow joy survived. I still played soccer every day. I still had a family and friends who lit up my world. We danced, we laughed, we played. But the moment that defined me came from the penthouse in our building. To be clear, this was not where we lived. Right? I lived there for a time until my head got too big, literally. I'll explain. Here it is. We lived down there, the penthouse, 3 stories large with multiple balconies and a private elevator, was abandoned. Wax sealed shut by the Revolutionary Guards, off limits, so of course I had to find a way in. For about a year, I'd take the elevator up to the 20th floor, slip my head and the rest of my body through the fire escape security railing, monkey bar, 4 or 5 feet across the balcony, 20 stories up, mind you, with the wind whipping through my hair, made sure my mom never saw me, just far enough to slip through the balcony railings, and voila. In fact, this might be the first time my mom hears about this. I apologize. Inside was a treasure chest, cracked open. Abandoned jazz records, novels of every type. My favorite was Gone with the Wind, but that's a story for another talk. There were games, comic books, movies, everything and anything. There was even a collection of Playboy magazines through the end of 1978. I think that was when the guy left. That was also when I first fell in love. What? Sexiness was banned. And really, I was into the articles. like this one. In all seriousness, I was just 9, 10 years old. Up in that massive playground is where I felt free for the first time. It's where I fell in love with literature, music, and storytelling, among other things. But most importantly, it was that in that penthouse where I first met the artist in me. When the world erases stories, you become a nomad of memories, carrying what others abandoned, and once you catch a scent of abandoned artifacts and stories, you never stop hunting. Think about your childhood. What were your treasures? What fragments have you carried forward, and why? The first migration most of us make is away from ourselves. This was the first lesson life taught me. Once I left Iran and my family, home wasn't a place anymore. It was the stories I carried out of my childhood and out of that penthouse. Home became memory in motion, and I would argue that's true for most of us. I was 13 when I left Iran. I thought I was leaving instability and chaos behind. Iran was my home, my family was my home, America was something else, an idea, a place where I thought my future self belonged. After all, I was born here. Why am I flashing? But exile doesn't work like that. Landing in the US, I found a country I thought I already knew, from books, movies, music videos, etc. Except in real life, it all felt quite alien. I scrubbed my accent, changed my hard-to-pronounce name, tried to fit in. I became someone else. And in that process, I forgot the artist that I'd met in that penthouse. Survival became the soundtrack of my life. My first job at 14 was making fried rice in a small mall food court in the 80s, mind you. And I've been working ever since, bagging groceries, throwing dance parties, bartending, opening restaurants, hustle after hustle, every time reinventing myself and surviving. For a long time, I referred to those early years after I arrived to the States as my dark age, the lost years, the years I lived as someone else while my true self desperately to find a way out of the self-imposed exile. And here's what those years taught me. Survival is kind of magic. You can pull worlds out of thin air. You learn to make something out of nothing, but survival can also trap you. It can trick you into thinking survival is enough. And in survival mode, you risk losing the scent of your own story. Has the need to survive or thrive, because thriving is also a way of surviving in this world, ever made you forget the scent of your story? Paradoxically, I came to understand that trying to fit in made me feel more alien than wandering ever did. Sometimes wandering isn't exile at all. It's liberation. That was the second lesson. Belonging isn't something you arrive at. Belonging is made along the way. For a long time, my otherness felt like an exile. I've come to see it differently. Otherness is a creative compass. It points you to where you need to look. That realization would come later in the Ivory Coast, but my shift back to myself had already begun. By 9/11, I was studying film, feeling the pull back towards conflict and instability, the conditions of my childhood, but this time to try and understand it. During the Ivorian Civil War, I was in Abidjan filming B-roll of refugees escaping the conflict and daily life. It was far from the actual fighting, so we thought. One morning, clashes broke out 100 yards away from me. I zoomed into a pile of swarming bodies. I saw men and boys, young boys, no older than I was when I left my family, drugged and brainwashed, killing each other with machetes and sticks. The footage was grotesque and powerful. I remember feeling absolute terror on the one hand and a strange sense of exhilaration, the sense that I was capturing something important, something that would prove my worth, elevate my career. Then my stomach turned. I had to look away from the viewfinder and I noticed another boy behind me, same age as the ones in the fighting. I can never forget it. Pokemon backpack, faded Harry Potter shirt, walking to school, his face turned backward, looking over his shoulder, terrified. Behind him, his mother stood tall, smiling at him, not because she wasn't afraid, because she knew what must be done despite the circumstances. She was doing everything in her power to put courage into her son. It hit me like a brick. My lens was facing the wrong direction. The real story wasn't the spectacle of violence. It was the everyday courage of survival in spite of whatever. I realized then that I'd lost the scent of my own story. You see, my own exile was to escape a war that conscripted children. Factually true, but that's not the story of my childhood, Iran, or my people. I realized the true power of stories. That moment changed me. It still haunts me. It taught me that the artist's superpower is not seeing what everyone sees, but having the discernment to notice what no one else is looking at, and the courage to pursue it. If your lens was pointed in the wrong direction, would you notice? Do you? Novelist Dina Nayeri writes, "Home is gone. It lives in the mind. That time exiles us all from our childhood. Exile isn't just about leaving a place, it's about time itself. We're all migrants, moving away from the children we once were, carrying fragments of that past into each new moment." Those fragments have become my compass. They've guided me for the next 20 years as I restlessly experiment with making films, video art installations, comic books, TV shows. I even had a primetime sitcom. They guide me as a father. They guide Starfish, an art organization I founded to support other artists and creatives. Starfish isn't an institution, it's an ecosystem for artist nomads like me, a way to make room for those innovating with new forms, new stories, new economics for how we carry stories forward. Why? Because the old models no longer work. They're broken, and everybody knows it. But we pretend to keep going. Keep funding the same ways, keep making things the same ways. It's broken. Now, everywhere we look, what once felt permanent is unraveling. Unlike the revolution of my childhood, this collapse hides in distractions. I forgot I'd done that. I'm like, I wasn't expecting a laugh on this one. It feeds on our fatalism. Exile isn't personal anymore. It became the condition of the century. Even AI knows. Shit's not good. But here's the thing. Artists are survivalists. We've trained ourselves to live on the edge, to make something out of nothing, to imagine new worlds. That's our gift and our curse. So we have to ask ourselves, in this moment of profound transformation, do we cling to a home that no longer exists, or do we meet this collapse with open hearts and carry the stories forward? As for me, I find myself climbing again, like with the penthouse of my childhood, feet dangling in the air, searching for traces of lost stories and wisdom. That instinct drew me back into another conflict zone after 2 decades away. This time, it was the Amazon rainforest, the front line of our war on the natural world. Last year alone, man-made fires set to feed our lifestyle burned sections of the Amazon about the size of Italy. That's just in 2024. And yet, inside the forest's indigenous communities, the guardians of this precious ecosystem, I found something else. An impossible joy that has somehow survived against all odds, a profound connection to nature, and a wisdom that might just heal us all. This time, I know where my lens needs to turn. That's what I'm carrying forward now, the work that has uprooted me once again, and I want to share a glimpse of it here with you. Maybe we do the lights. Yeah, here we go.
There are those who remember what we've lost, who speak in frequencies we've forgotten how to hear. And carry medicine for a planet in crisis. Among them, 2 tribes in the Amazon who carry the forest's wisdom. While rivers are poisoned, ceremonies endure. While invaders destroy, communities heal. They offer something beyond words, beyond explanation. beyond the stories that keep us separate. A quiet knowing that our own healing is inseparable from the forests. Kura is more than a documentary. It's a living ceremony, rooted in joy and hope. A healing ritual for a disconnected world, where strangers lie together in darkness, where sound becomes medicine, where frequencies recalibrate your nervous system, where image becomes prayer, where strangers become kin. The forest speaks in patterns lost to the modern world. This wisdom can't be captured in ordinary ways, can't be explained, analyzed, or consumed. It can only be experienced. Just you, the forest, and its guardians. Just presence and transformation. Kura is a living ceremony. And now, an invitation. To stand in unity with the guardians of the Amazon. To protect those who protect us. Thank you for your support.
I think we can bring the lights back. Thank you. Kura is the culmination of everything I've lived, my compass, the story I'm risking everything to retrieve. This is a work that breaks not just the rules of form, but the financial rules of how this kind of work gets made, gets financed, and how it shares its proceeds with those who are impacted by the story most and whose lives shape it. I invite you all to take a deeper look at what we're doing and reach out. But here's the truth. Each of you carries fragments only you are equipped and live the life to bring forward. Reading Abdul Razak Gurna, I'm struck by his insistence that ultimately rootlessness itself might be the only place we can claim. Rootless, but not lost. We're all strangers in this world, but our otherness is not exile. It's a compass. It's a superpower. The very thing that will help us meet this moment. So in a nomadic world, do we still need a home? I believe we do. But home isn't what we've lost. Home is what we carry forward. Home is the story we become. I will leave you with this final question. What truth are you willing to risk everything to retrieve? Go on then. Thank you.